Hi everyone, my name's April, I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, April.
I have been through this process. I've done the steps as they're laid out in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous with the help of a Big Book Step Study sponsor. I do qualify to speak. I have experience on this step in particularly. In fact, I'm experiencing it right now. Yeah, it's funny how your adrenaline just starts pumping when you start talking. Well, I was kind of hoping it would be a longer reading, but no, that didn't work out. It was like all of a sudden I'm on. Okay, great. All right, so as I learned early on, I'm gonna talk about what it was like, what I did, and what it's like now. Simple: the problem, the solution, and the steps, the action steps that I take. So when it comes to fear, one of the parts of the problem while I was drinking was that I thought I was fearless, and in fact, and I've heard this before, so this isn't original, but in fact I was reckless. I wasn't really fearless at all, because I didn't think I had any fear. I didn't even know what fear was. I mean, fear of bugs, fear of, heights, I got that. But this step is talking about the deeper level, right? The fear that, I don't know, the gut fear, So I didn't know any of that. So I was walking around life just pretty much barreling my way through, not understanding why everybody, was pissing me off. And I found out a lot during my writing of why people were pissing me off, because I was doing things that, created their reaction, which created my resentment. So my actions created their reaction, and I got a resentment. So, I saw this in my writing over and over and over again. And my reaction every single time was based on fear. But I didn't know any of this. So I'm just walking through life thinking, I got it all figured out. I'm good. I'm cool. I party just as good as the rest of them. And, there was no, it was like walking around numb and like a zombie. I didn't have any sense of my own actions. And the other thing that I didn't know then, while I was drinking, was that I was blaming everybody else. I was blaming everyone. So if I was in fear, I was going to take it out on you, because you caused that fear. You made me afraid, and now I need to react. So I'm going to react angrily, I'm going to lash out, and I'm going to push you away. And I'm not going to understand why we're not friends anymore, or I'm not going to, or actually, I'm not even going to not understand why we're not friends anymore. I'm just going to say, well, that person's a jerk anyway. I don't really want to be their friend, So it's all about them. It's all their fault. I didn't take responsibility. I wasn't able to take any responsibility for my own actions at all. And that's how I operated life. And the results were nil. So it was, when I was in fear, I had to drink to numb it out. I couldn't cope with any of that stuff. So I didn't. So I didn't cope with my life. I didn't live my life. So that's what it was like. And that's just a really dark place. But I didn't know any of that until, finally it just escalated to a point where I realized I didn't want to live this way anymore. That's really what it came down to. I did not want to live the way I was living. I had no idea what that meant. Sure, at the time it meant I didn't want any more hangovers. I didn't want to feel remorseful and regretful of my actions the night before. I didn't want to, feel the shame and the guilt and the remorse. And then, I didn't want to feel any of that stuff. And that was enough for me to say, okay, maybe I'll stop for a little while. And just for a little while, because I don't really have a problem. This doesn't need to be a lifelong thing, I just want to stop for a little bit. Because I was afraid, little did I know then, I was afraid that if I didn't have alcohol to help me cope with life, I couldn't cope with, what was going to happen to me. That was my comfort, my joy. And so I was afraid. But I said, all right, I'll just stop for a while. And then I did. And, I realized I was actually kind of feeling a little better and a little better and a little better. And I thought, maybe there's something to this. But I really didn't think it was the alcohol. Again, I thought it was really just self-esteem issues I had. I needed to get a good therapist. And I'm sure that she will fix me. Because I couldn't accept responsibility for anything myself. You had to fix me. You had to save me. You had to tell me how to do my life. That was how I lived. And so that's how my journey started. And then after a good chunk of time, I was on that jumping off point where I didn't want to drink, but I didn't not want to drink. Like, I just didn't know what the future was going to bring, and that was all the fear. The fear was really coming up because then, during the time that I stopped drinking, I was thawing out a little bit. My emotions were becoming a little more at the surface. I was, a little more vulnerable, a little bit more, well, let's say, I was afraid, I was scared, I was terrified. And so there was the jumping off point, and I had heard of Alcoholics Anonymous. I had some family members in it, and I thought, well, I guess I'll try that. And that, again, I just want to say, though, those thoughts were not my own. Those were thoughts that were just, God doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. So what I had was willingness, and I had just enough willingness to say, all right, I'll give this a try. And so I came in. And I listened, and I went to meetings every day. I got a sponsor right away. I was blessed to have been exposed to Big Book Step Study in my first week of sobriety. I was open to it. I've always believed in God. I just didn't have a relationship with God. So that part of it was easy for me to sort of get into, and I started to awaken a little bit. As I was coming into recovery, into AA at first, because I didn't know what recovery was, I didn't know what sobriety was, I didn't know any of that stuff, so I just hung on, and I hung on to the people that surrounded me, and they, helped me, they listened to me, and the fear was there a lot, early on. It seems like, I just think back, I'm like, how did I do that? And I didn't have to do it alone. So that's the greatest thing about AAs. We don't have to do this alone, we have each other. So then, as the years went on, I did work on the steps. I had started the steps this way, but then I kind of aborted them. And then 15 years later, I started them again and completed them. So, now fear. So the solution for me with fear, and it's just so appropriate because right now, and again, this is God doing for me what I can't do for myself. So I had there was a group text from Jackie saying she needed a speaker today. Her speaker had been sick. I don't usually sign up for this kind of stuff. Why? Because of fear. And I didn't know what the step was. I didn't know any of that, but I was drawn to respond. Like, I listened to that today a little more than ever before. So that's what I do differently now. I have this intuitive thought, and I actually don't tell anybody I was abducted by aliens, really, because then I went over to the phone and I responded, I can do it. I'm like, who did that? God knows how to text. So I did it, and I was like, yeah, all right, it's good. And then I asked her what step it was, and she says, fear. I was like, oh my God. My God has my higher power has such a sense of humor. Because right now I'm going through a career change. I've owned my own business for the last 8.5 years. And a lot of blood, sweat, and tears has gone into that business. I could cry, actually, because it's been a great journey for these years. But I've realized over the last year that it's time. It's time to make a change for a lot of reasons. You know, the career I was, the business I owned, it's just not working for me. So I hemmed and hawed because of fear. You know, it is so true how it steals us. It should be classified with stealing, because it kept me from doing, keeps me from acting. But then, things happen in the right time. So I had my eye on a particular place to work, and I, just had my eye on it. I was looking, there was a job that actually I had my eye on. I'm like, oh, maybe, no. So 8 months goes by. Finally, one day it just all kind of came to me. I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to update my resume. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever updated your resume, but that's usually a really hard process for me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to put on this thing. This is a pain, this and that. Well, for some reason this day, I pulled up an old one, I reformatted it, I put in some stuff, and it all worked fine. It was great. I wasn't stressed. Okay. So then I sent it out, and an hour later I got a response. Like, what? Wait a minute. Slow down, the response came. I had a phone interview, then I had a person-to-person interview, and lo and behold, I was offered the job. And I accepted the job, and I start Monday. And I'm like, oh my God, I start Monday, it's like, so Friday was my last day as a full-time business owner. I am going to still do it part-time, but it was the end of an era for me. And so this process has brought up so much fear. The position is I'm taking a pay cut, and it's a pretty significant pay cut. That's why I'll stay in my business for part-time, to help supplement the income. But it's like fear of financial insecurity is a big one, right? It's a big one. I'm going to be homeless. I don't even go to, I might not be able to pay my bills. No, I'm right too. I'm homeless. I'm panhandling. What am I doing? Yeah. That's when my fear takes me. And no, today I can stop that because I can stop it. And I have to say, fear didn't just go away after I did this work. It still comes up. But now I'm aware of it. Now I can feel it. It's in the solar plexus, And I can feel it, and I can say, all right, this is fear. I don't need to react. I can go to God with this. I can go to my sponsor with this. I can go to my support network with this. I can write about this. I can read. I can go to church. That's where I get comfort. I can find other places to get comfort to help me with my fear. And really it comes down to trusting and relying on my higher power. And that's been a long journey getting there, because it's something that's hard. It's not like if I put this book over here, then I'm trusting and relying on God. No, it's like there isn't actual steps I can do. It's more of a spiritual state of mind, like I'm going to just release this fear and know, because there's evidence in my recovery so far of all the times that I've been taken care of. Everything has worked out perfectly. This whole process all worked out perfect. It was all very simple, very easy. I wasn't forcing anything. It seemed like the natural next step for me. That's where I can say any other time that I've felt this way, it's been exactly the way it's meant to be, and I'm going to be okay. I am okay. I used to say I'm going to be okay, and it's really I am okay. And this is the stuff I do. This is the solution to fear. So when I wrote out my fears, I wrote out the fear itself, and then I was asked to ask myself a few questions, or asked to write out a few questions. One was, where did I get this fear? And what helped me there is, where did I first feel that fear? That helped me there. Why do I have this fear? That's really what I'm working on with this fear. And then in the next question, it was like, how did self-reliance fail me? And then what would have been different if I trusted and relied on God? Those were the three questions that I answered for all the 100+ fears that I had from my writing. And what I saw there is how trusting and relying on God is the solution. That is the answer. You know, that is the answer. And so one of the fears I had, for example, my mother was a single mom until I was about 10. So then she married my stepdad. But before then, she was an alcoholic as well. And I don't know where this came from, but she never wanted me to see her drink alcoholically. So what she did was she would send me off to all the relatives, the babysitters, didn't matter, just as long as she could go and drink, you know. And so what I learned was that feeling of abandonment was early on, you know, where's my mom? I don't know where she is, you know. So fear of abandonment was a big one in my writing. You know, I'm going to be left. I'm not going to get that. She's not going to come back and get me. You know, I'm just going to be left. So that's the fear. That's why I have it. You know, that's the work right there. You write down the fear of abandonment, and then you write down where it came from, and you kind of. You got to dig a little deep. You know, you got to go in there. You know, and this is the stuff I avoided. You know, like the plague. Just didn't want to go there at all. So, you know, I did the work, and I had my sponsor with me to help me. That's why sponsorship is so important, to just kind of help you, to be a sounding board for you. I also did have outside help to help me with this stuff. It's just what I needed, and it helped me. And so I wrote all that down. And then where did self-reliance fail me? So when this fear of abandonment would come up, say, for example, I'm in a relationship and I'm afraid he's going to leave me. So I'm afraid of abandonment. Well, my self-reliance, I'm going to hold on to that person as tightly and as overwhelmingly as I can, because I don't want them to leave me. And so that's going to not be very pleasant for that other person. And that's going to make them want to withdraw even more, or they're going to abandon me because I'm holding them. So like that, to me, it's like, oh, they're actually pulling away. They must be abandoning me. See, you know, and it's self-reliance. So what does this get me? It gets me feeling the abandonment. It gets me actually being left or abandoned. You know, it's creating this thing that I'm fearing. That's self-reliance. That's me relying on just me to handle this uncomfortable feeling that is coming up for me. I'm blaming it on him or her, or whatever relationship it is. I'm blaming it on them. When in reality, when I'm working in the solution now, I see, no, this is fear of abandonment right now. Okay, it's not their fault. I'm not going to take it out on them. I'm certainly not going to suffocate this person. I need to go somewhere else with this. It's not the other person's job to fix me, job to save me, et cetera, et cetera. So I need to go somewhere else and work with this. And I have those tools to do that today. That's solution, right? But I have to do that, and I have to be aware of that. And all of that comes from doing the work, you know, and trusting the process. So now that's what I do. And now, you know, it goes away. It says right here, it says, you know, when I'm trusting and relying on God to you know, handle this fear, then the fear will leave us, you know. So all I have to say is the fear prayer, really. I mean, it's a lot more than that, of course, than just saying it. But, you know, we ask him to remove our fear and direct our attention to what he would have us be. That's not do, that's be. That was brought to my attention, and I really like that. So what would he have me be? Quiet, you know, quiet, self-reflecting, self-responsible. He would have me be patient, understanding, kind to myself. And that's what I ask God for today. You know, what would you have me be? And those are the actions I take. So I've been working with this. This is not something one and done, you know, for the last couple weeks now, up to, you know, now Monday. And I'll be doing it today, and I'll be doing it tomorrow, and I'll be doing it Monday, because I'm afraid. You know, it doesn't go away. I mean, I have a boss now. I have a structured 8 to 5 job now. But you know what else? I have benefits now. I have retirement now. I have vacation time. I have an hour lunch paid. You know, that's like wow, that's awesome, you know? And I'm going to just hold on to all that good stuff right now because, you know, I know all the other stuff will take its course. But I really appreciate everybody listening to me today. Hopefully I've made sense, and I know that I know that it has helped me today. So thank you so much.
Great job.